so the tariffs are working, you gotta vote Captain America.
How cool is that though? I mean, it could happen, it could happen.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the City of Coalinga Planning Commission. We have an echo on this. Can we adjust that volume, please? Join me in the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, Sean, I know we have a change to agenda. You want to review that?
Oh, yeah, we just have one, Chairman. We're gonna move the discussion item to actually the public hearings. There was a public hearing notice that was sent out on that, so we'll just move that from discussion to public hearings.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairman Stoppenbrink,
Here.
Vice Chairman Hill,
Yeah.
Commissioner Helmar. Here. Commissioner Papietro,
Here?
Commissioner Yaden.
Present.
And Sean and Shannon are here. Public comments under the Government Code Section 54954.3. Members of the audience may address the commission on any item of interest to the public on any agenda item before or during the commission's consideration of the item. The state law prohibits the planning commission from acting on any non-agenda items. Information consent calendar, these are the minutes for March 11th, 2025. The chair will entertain a motion for approval.
I would move that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. Okay, Sean, you want to review the appeal before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, Chairman. So tonight, Planning Commission is considering an appeal by Calneva for a sign code violation at 100 First Street. It is the recommendation that Planning Commission deny the appeal. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Deny the appeal and uphold the notice of violation for the installation and maintenance of an unpermitted, non-compliant wall sign on the north side, on the north corner of First Street and East Forest Avenue. On January 22nd, the Coalinga Code Enforcement Division issued a notice of violation to the property owner of 100 North First Street for a violation regarding an unpermitted wall sign on the building's northwest facade. Subsequently, on February 27th, the property owner filed an appeal of the code violation. In their appeal letter, which is identified as Exhibit A, includes the violation and the appeal letter. The appellant argued against the violation notice, stating that they were prepared to apply for a sign permit for the wall sign. On April 16th, 2025, the City of Coalinga Community Development Department denied the appeal. The violation appeal was denied because the unpermitted wall sign significantly exceeds the maximum sign area allowed and occupies more than 75% of the length of the wall to which the sign is attached. The appeal is being heard by the Planning Commission in accordance with Coalinga Municipal Code 9-6.115, whereby an applicant, property owner, or any other person aggravated by the decision of the Community Development Department may file an appeal to the Planning Commission. So in terms of some of the analysis, we kind of utilize, based on the appeal, the same regulations and the same reasoning that we provide in our decision based on the appeal that was when the appeal was brought to the Community Development Department. The existing signage at the subject property consists of one unpermitted wall sign, which is approximately 600 square feet, it's about 30 foot long, based on Google Earth measurements, and 20 foot tall based on common sign printing sizes. Situated on the northwestern side of the primary building structure. And you can see on Exhibit B, we have some pictures of the sign photos. I imagine you've probably seen it driving down Elm Avenue. The general plan land use designation for the parcel is service commercial with a zoning designation of service commercial. Signs of the Coalinga Municipal Code establishes regulations to ensure the orderly display of signs as a citywide information system consistent with state and federal law. So the following regulations we identified that are basically applicable to the subject property. One is the permitted sign types. The code allows for awning, canopy, marquee, monument, pole, projecting wall, and window signs within the CS zoning district. The subject property's existing wall sign is a permitted sign type under the section, provided it complies with the applicable standards detailed related to maximum sign area standards for wall signs. The maximum sign area, excuse me, allowed in the CS zone is 1 square foot per 1 linear foot of building frontage, up to a maximum of 200 square feet. The subject property has approximately 80 linear feet of building frontage, which would allow an 80 square foot combined overall signage for the entire site. So when we look at the overall maximum, it's based on what the cumulative amount of linear footage is for that particular frontage, which equates to the maximum allowable sign area. And then we also have specific standards for wall signs. The maximum number of signs is 1 wall sign per building or tenant space, frontage plus 1 rear facade sign. The maximum sign area is 100 square feet or 15% of the building facade, whichever is less. In terms of height, wall signs shall not be mounted or placed higher than the 2nd story and shall not extend higher than the building wall upon which it's attached. The wall sign shall not occupy more than 75% of the length of the wall or tenant space to which the sign is attached. In terms of projection, wall signs cannot extend more than 12 inches beyond the facade of the wall in which they're attached. In terms of design, all wall signs shall be oriented to achieve balance, composition, and harmony with the architectural elements of the building facade. So as shown in Exhibit B, which is the sign photos, the unpermitted sign significantly exceeds the maximum sign area allowed and occupies more than 75% of the length of the wall which it's attached to. We did do some public notifications, so there were public notifications that went out on May 1st, and the hearings were posted and mailed in accordance with local regulations. As the right in this report, we didn't receive any verbal communication regarding the public notices. And staff recommends the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the notice of violation issued on the property based on the factors identified in the analysis below. The notice of violation was appropriately issued in adherence with the Killington Municipal Code. The existing signage violates the sign code ordinance. Consequently, staff maintains its recommendation that the appeal be denied. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions from the commissioners before we open the public hearing?
I'm gonna hold mine until after.
Okay.
Likewise, but is there anyone from Calneva here?
Yes, Cindy's here from
Oh,
Calneva.
okay.
Go ahead, Richard.
I know when we worked on the signage thing, we had talked about the difference between a banner and a sign. I mean, what they have is, would that be considered a banner? Because it's not a permanent sign, it's not permanently painted, right? I mean, it's a,
No, it's permanently painted.
huh?
No, it's not painted on the wall.
It's
No,
a banner.
It's
I mean,
attached. And that's another thing is we felt that, you know, if something like that, it's kind of the balance between what's temporary and if it's temporary, it's even more restrictive
Right.
than a permanent sign. So we wouldn't even apply these. It would be more for like grand openings and then usually it's like a day before or like a few days before the grand opening and a day or two after when those signs go away. So it actually should be gone a lot sooner rather than applying it as a permanent sign. Now it looks as a material that can probably sustain a longer length of time, which is what we look at a lot of times when it comes to, if it's a cardboard sign or something that we know like where weather is going to really deteriorate it quickly. We kind of looked at it from the lens of a permanent type sign, as long as it's made of materials that'll last. But with this, it's being applied as a permanent sign. But a temporary sign, it should have been down. You know, there really wasn't any reason for it because it's not really advertising within the confines of what a temporary sign would be.
Even that, as a banner, it's still too large, right?
Oh yeah, no, either way, it's still too big no matter what. Yeah.
That's what I remember when we did this signage thing, we talked about banners, Because banners can be either long or go up and down, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we talked about like, because we addressed like the sign twirlers and different
Right.
things where we were gonna allow these types of different signages, but they were on a temporary basis for like grand openings and special
30, I
sales
think
events.
30 days or something, or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember offhand. I have to look at the code to see exactly what that is, but we're not applying this as a temporary sign. But it's still, yeah, it's the size is really what the big issue is on this.
Okay. This time we'll open the public hearing for this appeal for the signage. Anybody in the audience who wants to speak in favor or against this, please come forward and state your name for the record.
We'll put you.
Please come
You
up.
want to
to
go on
the-
the microphone? And I think the microphone's on. That's okay.
Restate everything?
So it's going to be recorded.
Okay, my name is Cindy Harrell and I work for Calneva Broadband. I'm the office manager. Unfortunately, we did not pay attention to the signs and what the regulations were, and my operations manager ordered the sign because we have that cinder block wall and it was just nothing. It's very institutional. We're competing against a much larger company with a much larger budget. And so we just asked for that to be considered in the appeals. I did write a letter just kind of explaining everything and, you know, we're just asking for an exemption. It is a banner, and what we do, our other signs are banners too, our smaller ones, and we change them when they get faded. So it's not requiring any special installation, no electricity, no, safety type things. We were just able to handle it to ourselves, and we were just asking for the exemption to cover that wall. And we have gotten new subscribers. A business across the street said they saw our sign, called us, and we got a new subscriber, which is huge because we are up against a big company as far as competition goes. We are not large. But I appreciate the consideration.
Any questions of the applicant before we close the public hearing?
Yes, I have a couple questions. How much did the sign cost?
Way too much. It was a little bit over $1,000. It was a big budget for us.
And if you have to take it down, what would your plan be to replace something?
We probably wouldn't. That was the first time we had anything on that wall other than a small, but you can't really see it when it's the smaller sign.
My only other question is for Sean, so thank you for that
Yeah.
information.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions of staff?
Sean, I was wondering if there was any option for, not saying that I would I just exploring options, okay, to approve it, but with some kind of a penalty? Because the idea of rather ask permission than, or ask for forgiveness than permission, I have a problem with that. But is there something that they could do that would benefit the community, either in pay some sort of a penalty in exchange for some kind of a waiver?
Yeah, there's
And
really,
not that we could do that, not
yeah,
that the
there's
planning
really no,
commission.
there's really no exceptions.
No exceptions.
For the code, yeah. We have some exceptions that have been built in. We have certain signs that are exempt, but this is not a certain type of sign that would be exempt. Certain types of signage that's exempt from either permits or, but they still have regulations in terms of size. So like exempt signage would be like your directional signage in drive-throughs. So certain signage is subject to regulations, but then other ones, small, certain size, but they're still restricted on certain size. So the code's pretty straightforward when it comes to the criteria for signage. As you know, we've gone through a couple, we've done exceptions, but those are legal non-conformings or in different, where it does give us flexibility, but not going to that extent. of a size.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my first concern is that being on the planning commission with Richard, I mean, I know when we drafted these deals and we did them for a reason, and this kind of sidesteps a little bit of that reason. The rationale was we didn't want main streets and these thoroughfares to be cluttered up with signs to where you can't see things. And so I do think that we need to be very careful if we make an exceptions to those rules, because it sets ourselves up for something. Yet I understand the dilemma that they face. And so one of the questions I have, Sean, is when it talks about signage on the front and the rear, because they can have something on their rear facade, I take it that within the scope of that, they could utilize their 80 square feet on the side of that building for the correct size of signage.
Yes, and they do face two areas of public right-of-way, so there is that flexibility in the code, where when you face, like, say, a parking lot, similar like Ace Hardware, there's the sign on the back side and on the front side. They do face multiple public rights-of-way, so it does give flexibility for multiple signs. It just really comes down to total signage size, and the number of signs, based on your linear frontage of building,
Right.
with a maximum. So if you had a building that was 500 feet long, you're still limited to a certain size
Right.
in terms of what the maximum allowable sign can
Right,
be.
so the way I read it is, it looks to me like 100 square feet's maximum, no matter.
Yes,
So, and
for
in
that
their case,
particular,
due to their frontage measurement, their number is somewhere around 80.
for the frontage on, that faces kind of Elm Avenue.
Right,
Yeah.
so I mean, they could use all 80 on the side of the building, if that's what they chose to do.
Yeah.
And it would encourage them to do so. Either they could modify the current banner or do something that they could do that. But I mean, I think for the spirit of what we've done, I would not feel comfortable doing exception to those rules, because then all of a sudden, we start getting exceptions to that one everywhere, unless there's a way somewhere down the road to say, and I'm just gonna say, like a conditional use permit.
And there
If there was a
is,
way that you could do that, then,
and I would have to double check. I know that there has been a process, not to this extent. I mean, this is like probably 300% larger than what the standards are. I know that when there have been other signs permitted, it's allowed for an increase. That typically goes to the city council. But those have been on very minimal increases. And a lot of it is because of existing non-conforming. Like, I think even the Family Discount Market, it was an increase of a very small amount of signage because the existing pole sign there. But I would say, even from a staff perspective, that we would still not recommend using that process to approve a sign that large.
okay.
Have you gotten any complaints from Coalinga residents?
I've received calls, yeah.
I mean, like
people say-
questioning or complaining about it?
Just asking why it's so big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no formal complaints, but you just
Okay,
get
but
phone
you-
calls. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, if, like, take their building, I mean, they got a pretty big building there. If they was to paint, can they paint a mural on that wall?
We have a separate mural program that they
Okay.
could, but but the murals,
Can't
so
have no
there's
advertisement.
yeah, exactly. It's different. So when you're putting the name of the business on there, that's commercial signage. A mural can't be commercial signage.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, you can do the mural, but they can't put their name, or they can't put
Yeah.
a antenna or something.
Yeah,
right?
so we do have specific definitions of what commercial signage is, and we're very particular about that to make sure we balance, what commercial signage is and what's artistic or what's not, right?
Yeah, I remember when we had talked about, 'cause, we were on there and we talked about that mural, and I was just wondering, I can't remember exactly what the outcome on that necessarily was, but I remember we had talked about that. And
Yeah, we have a mural program, so we have guidelines and what the process and the steps are if you're looking to do a mural on a building.
We'll have to, I know,
Are you?
yeah, the outside.
I'll get you that information too.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, so it's on this side, what's in the front?
which would be on First Street.
Yeah,
There's a couple signs, and we've been addressing those signs as well, because our code doesn't allow signs on fences.
oh,
So, I mean, it would need to be on the wall. And that would allow, I mean, the code does allow for multiple, so they would be able to have one on First Street and one on facing Elm. I guess that really doesn't face a street, but it does kind of face Elm.
I mean, I'm just wondering if there was any way to salvage any of this, like to wrap it, like from, start closer to, and go around the corner or something,
No, because I believe it's 80 square feet total.
It's still too large, because it's still too
Too
large
still too
by, just by
large.
total square footage, it's way too large. Yeah,
You could get a huge hairdryer and shrink it onto the building,
yeah.
yeah.
shrink wrap it. Any other questions? Sean, how many years, I know, I'm thinking 15, 20 years ago, we ran this signage issue through the planning commission back then.
This is about 12 years ago.
12 years?
Yeah, that was about 2014 is when we updated, that's when we did the overhaul on the entire code, and we knew that we spent a lot of time on signs, if you guys all remember.
We did a lot.
We knew that was gonna be a very big, because we basically took it from scratch and really tried to look at, trying to make it flexible, but at the same time, making sure that we do have orderly signage throughout town. 'Cause I think we even showed some examples of what it looks like in Los Angeles and other areas when there's not really any enforcement of signage throughout town, and it cleans up the town a lot more, especially with the council's direction to really try to improve the downtown and improve the uniformity and getting businesses to kind of clean up their businesses, which is really kind of the direction we're gonna be going, to really try to encourage that. This is, signage is definitely part of it, and we've been pretty active in code enforcement, trying to regulate illegal signage and getting old signage removed, to really clean up the downtown corridor as well, so.
All right, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion regarding resolution 025P-005 regarding the denial of the appeal of the notice of violation with respect to the property located on the north center of First Street and East Forest Avenue.
I make a motion.
We have a motion by Richard, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Rocco seconds, do we have any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Papietro.
Aye.
Commissioner Yaden.
Abstain.
Commissioner Helmar.
Aye.
Chairman Stoppenbrink.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the department reports. We have any department reports?
I do not have any, Chairman. We have a couple items we are working on at a staff level that we'll probably be bringing to the commission, just don't have an exact date. We've been working on updating all the zoning language for housing-related ADUs, that kind of stuff, based on the housing element being adopted. There's some language that we have to adhere to state law, and so we're just making some adjustments to our current regulations. Now state law requires a 20-day public notice for some of these zoning text amendments that we do. So they're gonna take even longer to process. Yes, so there's a much longer public notification process. So we have a draft, we're just working on kind of going through those, and then we'll probably be bringing that to you guys as kind of a comprehensive package of regulations. We are still working on the senior housing project with the developer. I have a meeting with them tomorrow, the one on Walnut and Elm. So they're still trying to move forward. We've been working with Self-Help. Self-Help's gonna be building a small housing tract off of between Cherry and Locust and that property back there that the city owned. And so we're working with them to try and alleviate the storm drainage requirements for the senior housing on the front side, so they can share a joint basin in the back property over there, so they can actually build multiple phases of that senior housing.
So are they gonna be entering that property from both sides?
Yeah, so there'll be access off of Walnut, and then there'll be access off of,
Cherry?
no, what is it? Walnut and is it Locust? Not Locust. What's the street? What am I?
I was just on that street yesterday. Kinda can't think what the
Not
hell
the
I
one
mean.
locust.
Locust is the one that's back further though. It's
Cedar?
Walnut, no. Walnut, probably another nut.
It doesn't
Folsom
matter.
Street, that's that little.
No, Folsom's further. My,
Oh, well.
it's those two. But one from the, basically entering from the east side, and then you'll be from the north side. Nothing off of Elm Avenue. We've avoided dealing with Caltrans and trying to get access off of Elm, which probably makes sense over there too.
And the property between Post Cheney and the hospital, that was all supposed to be, senior living and Alzheimer's and all that, that's still up in.
Yeah, my buddy Gary Shingu.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. So just having trouble. I think it's just the financing of some of these projects are really challenging, especially in the healthcare side. It's difficult. They want to start with some of the housing, and it's been difficult to pencil out for them. So so that's what kind of we have down in the works right now.
How's the houses out behind PG&E that we approved?
We have no updates on that right now.
I drove out
Robert's
there
been.
The other day, and there was still,
Yeah,
just
nothing.
pipes sitting there. and all
Yeah,
that.
Robert's been working with them. I know that they've changed development group to that direct the builder. So we're not sure if they're going to have to resubmit the building plans, new elevations, that kind of stuff. Because if it's a new builder, they might be building a different product. So we need to make sure it's consistent with what we've already approved. And then we'll just do an administrative review on that for the homes. But yeah, Robert's been reaching out and really not getting a lot of movement from them. But we've been really pushing, saying that we need housing. And so folks that we're talking to, we're going to conferences, just trying to work developers. It's a challenging time for housing out here, trying to bring it out here when I think they can build in other places and build the same product and make a higher profit margin. Because the cost of building, I think, is the same here as it is in Lemoore or Hanford. But the cost of housing, I mean, they can sell them for more. And so I think that when there's still demand in other jurisdictions, I think still when the market crashed 10 years ago, I think we still,
2008.
I don't think we've seen a big development surge in terms of new developers, right? So I think you're still dealing with the similar parties, the ones that, as the dust settles, who's left?
Yeah, it's hard to get people to move out there, cause there's, family stuff, there's nothing to do.
I,
I mean, if I had a family with kids, I probably wouldn't move out there.
makes it challenging.
There's nothing for the kids to do and stuff, really to do it. A couple of little double parks and one.
There's a high quality of life.
Was that what it is? Well, the Pope is still there.
How long do they have to bring the sign down?
It's a good question. I've never had to deny an appeal, so this is the first out
Is
of all the
there-
years
is-
I've been here.
Is there a subsequent appeal to the city?
No,
council now?
we'll review. I imagine it's gonna be probably maybe 14 days or
Okay.
kind of just the typical.
I would say no
Timeframe.
more than 30.
No, it'll probably be, we'll probably just default back to what the typical notice of violation is to remove it. And we're still trying to work with them to try and get the right size signage. We've kind of put together some detailed responses in terms of because they submitted an application, but we knew that, it is what it is.
I
But so
don't
we've been
under-
trying to work with them to try to determine what we
I
can.
don't understand what, as long as they've been in business here, why they didn't bother to check the code before they went and did that?
It's common. I mean, we deal with it.
I
And
think to the point next door here is it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So,
so we'll get a letter out and, confirm the removal.
Is there any grants out that they can get to try to get signed, cause like say they spent $1,000 and they are losing money probably right and left with this fiber optic stuff.
There might be opportunities through,
I
the
mean, maybe we
EDC.
could send them, maybe some ideas where they could go for a grant if there is something maybe we could help them that way to see.
Yeah, I mean, typically, if there's grant opportunities that come across my desk, I reach out. I think I've sent over things to Chuck and their group, and if I see something that might kind of be a niche for certain businesses, I either put them out on a bigger scale, or if it's going to fit the kind of the niche of a certain nonprofit or a business in town, definitely we try to reach out. I forward a lot to the Parks District, things that could benefit folks. So. The EDC is a good resource for things like that if they're fine small, but a lot of times it's small business loans, but grants are hard to come by, especially for small amounts like that.
Well, and the cost to write a grant for that small amount is cost you 10
Yeah,
grand to write the
yeah,
grant.
or the red tape involved in reporting and everything else. I mean, I avoid the small value grants because it's more of a headache to manage them and monitor them than it is the money that you're getting from it.
Yeah, we do that deal, we just pain in the ass.
hey, another subject, Rite Aid. So the piece that went out by the city, potential closing, is that closing for different reasons? I know it's all to do with the bankruptcy, but is that one expedited due to a lease issue or?
No, so what triggered me making that post was I had read an article in the Business Journal, and it had mentioned there's 24 stores in the valley that are going to be closing. I subsequently reached out to my Retail Strategies, who's our consulting firm that we use for retail and economic development, and said, hey, I need to get something out. I want to get ahead of this to the public because I don't want them to see it on the news. And so I reached out. He says, they confirmed that store, but I think it's across the board. Like Readly, the Business Journal talked about Readly and other ones. There were people, I think Fox and ABC put a little post out over the weekend. Those stores have already closed.
Yeah.
So I think it's already imminent that these other stores are going to close. We don't have a timeline, but I just don't think they've recovered from the bankruptcy.
So today's news, Channel 30's news was that there's 86 stores gonna close immediately in their terms, none of which are in the Central Valley.
So they might be a little bit
So-
further behind. I imagine it's got to be a rollout.
Yeah.
But it also could be how they are, like if it's short, there could be leases that are already like maybe not renewed. Those they can walk away from. These are current leases that they have to either the developer has to buy out the lease or they need to find another tenant for it. It's like bankruptcy on the tenants on the leasing side, which it's new to me. But basically they're in default of their lease because they have these long-term leases. When they have these developers spend all this money for the tenant improvements, they'll sign 15, 20-year leases so they can get their return on investment. But sometimes these businesses, like in this case, I don't think they've ever been able to recover. So I think it's kind of a staggering closure, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, and our Retail Strategy is already actively looking for retailers that can replace that because you lose a big anchor too. I don't know how much of an anchor they've been recently, because their capacity of purchasing for the community has been very limited because I think they've never really been able to recover shelf life wise because I think they've got one vendor for every product they sell. When you used to be able to see, you want Tylenol, you could get 5 different versions of Tylenol. Now it's like the wellness brand, and that's it, because all the other vendors don't want to do business with them anymore because they've been paid pennies on the dollar for the product they didn't get paid for. So during
The
bankruptcy.
pharmacy probably held them afloat for the longest time.
You're right. And that's a huge impact. I've talked to the college and the schools, and there's an impact to the community on that. And so,
Everything would fall on Walgreens at that point, then.
yeah, in
Well,
certain
that's
insurance.
another issue because our insurance through West Hills, Walgreens is no longer an allowed provider, so all of a sudden,
You're
you can't
out.
go to Walgreens, there's no contract
Well,
with the prescription drug.
You'll have to move.
Why not?
Or he's gonna have to-
Move to Arizona.
So I think we're trying to help them with anything. I think a lot of it is their human resource department communicating about other mail-in options, because there are other mail-in options and things that you can do.
Costco's always a good one.
Yeah, or Costco. So I think there's definitely options. It's just that, oh no, now you don't have that option to go and get it. So if
Or
you
if
have,
you're a veteran, you can get it from the VA, they'll mail it to you too. If you're
yeah, so there's definitely options. So anything the employers need help with, we're here to help. Yeah, so it's always difficult when you have 2 options.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the hospital has in terms of pharmacy options now, but like anything, hopefully it generates some interest from someone to open up a pharmacy, because I think the community is going to need it. I think a lot of small communities are going to need it. A lot of these small communities don't have a Walgreens and a Rite Aid like we do, so they're going to lose one or the other, because both these companies are struggling. I mean, it's not
Oh, yeah. They're all
hidden.
of them.
It's both
Yep.
these companies are struggling, and because they're glorified convenience stores, and they've operated it. The pharmacies, like you say, the pharmacies are what keep these doors open, I think.
All
So-
they need to do is put a car wash in there.
All right.
It's not on the agenda.
Any
Have
other-
they, have they identified, whatever, fast food place is gonna go in next to Starbucks?
We don't. I've been working with the developers since I got back from ICSC. I've been in conversations with about 3 different folks that had some, I wouldn't say they're shoo-in, but they're at least on the radar for Coalinga, but there's no guarantee they're coming. But I have them in contact with the developers. A lot of times it comes down to who wants ownership space and who wants lease space. So I know some of the ones we're working with, they're, a lot of them are lease based, or they're ownership based, and then some are lease based. So the developers have to make decisions if they want to try and sell off a piece of their property so they can actually have somebody come in, but then they're in the business of bringing in a reoccurring revenue, not one-time sale.
Wiener Schnitzel would be good.
I don't even know if they're expanding.
Probably not.
And any movement on the additional
No.
things at Kmart?
I put out a post last
Oh, I didn't
week,
see that.
just kind of updating the community, because I know that there, people are always interested and kind of know what's going on. Unfortunately, there's no news. I've been in contact with the developer, and I tried to explain a little bit in the post, kind of give a lay of how this industry works. The city we can yell, we can scream, we can throw all the money at it. We've tried everything to try and get these folks here. And, now the years that we've been going to these conferences and talking to retailers and talking to developers, it's the relationship with the developers, the retailers, and the financing. It all has to work. The city, they want a city that supports them and says, hey, we have an open door, we're willing to do what we can do. But, we start throwing money at it, their price goes up 20%. I mean, we give them $1, their whole project's 20% more because of prevailing wage. So any public money that goes into these projects, it makes it very challenging. Now, there are some exceptions to like infrastructure and upgrades and those types of things that we can help with, because there's a greater benefit, not just directly to the development, but we've got all the infrastructure we need in these areas where we're starting to see development. So it's so challenging. All we can do is continue the conversations, make sure that we're providing them updated statistics on what the community looks like. But unfortunately, it's market driven. And, we try to stay ear to the ground, what's going on, but unfortunately, and that's what I kind of tried to explain in that post, so people kind of understand that, we're doing everything we can, but, we can't force their hand to bring a business in.
Can't make them.
So.
Yeah, I saw that Lemoore was bragging that they got a Chipotle.
Another Mexican restaurant, we need,
They are, oh, yeah.
we need another car wash.
We need another car, that's exactly what we need.
I wish we
So,
would have
what's
one.
the status on Starbucks? I heard that the old one, that their lease is up at the end of this year, and I heard that it was supposed to be up in 4 or 5 years.
Lease is up in October of this year at the Starbucks.
Yeah, it's up this.
But now
end of the year.
the property manager says the lease is good for another 4 or 5 years.
I have not been able to confirm what is happening with that Starbucks. I cannot confirm nor
Manager
deny.
down there told me
That's
the
what the
lease is
manager-
up
Yeah,
in October.
that's what the manager told me.
Yeah. So
So then what did they say after that?
Pardon?
So lease is up, are they gonna renew or are they gonna
That's why
close?
they want this
That's
thing
why they
open by
do that.
August.
Oh,
That's what they
well,
want this.
you
building.
remember the rumor was they were gonna operate both of them because one's on the wrong side of town, so.
yeah, there's a lot, and that's why I want to make sure that there's not mixed messaging of what's going on. I mean, I feel like we're probably, I'm connected enough to the developers and the Starbucks reps that I have not been able to get anything out of them as to what's going on. So as soon as I hear something and I know from the horse's mouth, I will make sure that people know. Or that one will end up closing one day and that
Then
one's
we'll know.
open. So,
Go down the
but I
road.
just don't want to add. we don't know what's going to happen.
So it's a nice looking building.
It's going to be very nice. Yes.
The thing of it is, there's not going to be an increase of 100% demand for Starbucks just because you have two stores.
It's
If you look at it
convenience.
From a practical point
Right.
of view, it's just not cost effective,
Not here, I wouldn't think.
unless you get another 1,000 rooftops in here.
No, and I think that's what's what we need. We know we talked about. We need housing. So
Yep.
Get a Dutch Brothers in that building over there. What do you think of that?
Well, there was, at one point, there was that discussion.
there's been interest.
I'm trying to find the right word.
Yeah,
Yes,
and that's
discussion.
why it's fun to be able to say, hey, they're showing interest. They want to come into town. But I hate it ends up coming in failure on our part if they don't come in. And so I don't like to give. I want to make sure people.
You never put good news out, because it very shortly turned into
until
bad
the
news.
sign is up.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
And even then,
I'm
it's
not even
iffy.
gonna ask about Chipotle.
Until the grand opening occurs and you get that first
Or Black
Chipotle
Bear.
burrito,
Right.
it's not open.
What
You
happened
know?
to Black Bear?
We're
What an
always actively looking, And when you talk to them, they're always they always want to come. If they can make it work, they want to be here. It's a business decision for them.
Yeah.
You know, they want to be in community, they want to be in good communities, but they also want to make money. And if they know they can make money and it makes sense to them, they will be here. There is so much analytics nowadays with everyone with their cell phones. They know what everybody's doing, where everyone's shopping, where people are spending their money, how many people, how much leakage we have in our community. You know, we'll know when a Costco wants to come in, right? When they're, you know, it's one of those things where we'll know when we know. And a lot of times they tell us, but we like to communicate and make sure that, you know,
We need another Dollar Tree.
I think it's time to go home, Ken.
yeah.
Participate.
You pulled the department report out of me anyways.
Are we gonna have a meeting in 2 weeks, or,
We need a big drive.
I don't think so.
okay.
Yeah, considering a 20-day public hearing notice, I haven't got that out yet, so definitely not gonna have it in 2 weeks.
Any other comments for the good of the order? Meeting adjourned.
I don't think much of it was for the good.
I missed who seconded the minutes.
Rocco did.
The minutes?
Rocco?
Oh, the minutes? I don't know the minutes,
I
sorry.
have you as the first.
I'll go
Made
down
the
as a second.
motion.
I don't know who did, but just in case.
Oh,
I thought you did.
yes, you're right. I made the motion to approve the minutes.
Minutes, do you know who seconded?
I thought, Chuck
I
did.
missed it.
I did.
Say Chuck.
Oh, okay, Chuck.
Just gonna say
Do
Chuck.
y'all agree it was Chuck?
Oh, what
Yeah.
I know it wasn't me, it wasn't you.
So, blame that Chuck.
Good seeing you guys.
I'm used to it, actually.